All right. This is Andrew Rains here with Apex Pro, coming to you live from the Apex Pro warehouse, where you can see over here to my left, we've got some packaging for Apex Pro units. So when we ship stuff out, this is where all the packaging lives. This is kind of our shipping and receiving area over here. A little bit of America behind me, and then we've got the Auburn Formula SAE Racecar right here. I'll adjust the camera a little bit so you guys can see that a little bit better. So we're going to be talking a little bit about this. When you guys join, if you don't mind, hop in there and hit the wow face just to let me know that you can hear me. I want to make sure that my lapel mic is working here. So if you can, please tap that wow face or comment and let me know that you can hear what's going on. Doing Facebook Live at a little bit different time today. I had to go get a haircut. I'm getting married next weekend, and apparently today was the ideal time frame to get a haircut, so I had to make that happen. So just time frame wise, this is what works. But I wanted to just kind of bring everyone up to speed. We haven't done a live video in a couple of weeks. Wanted to talk about some events that we have coming up, some interesting product info. There we go. Matt can hear me. Awesome. All right, guys, hit that wow face if you can hear me. Also, let me know. I'm going to share this as well from my phone right here on my personal page. Let me know who your favorite football team to follow is, because we're going to talk a little bit about this race car right here, which comes from Auburn University, and I want to go into a little bit. Hey, Marlon, welcome. A little bit of the origin story about Apex Pro, and it has a lot to do with Auburn University, who has a big football program, and kind of how this was a part of that. So War Eagle, big Auburn fan, Auburn graduate. So is Austin, my business partner here. So let me know who you guys pull for, college or pro football. Want to know Sam's from New Zealand. Sam Bensley just joined. You guys have rugby down there. Presumably you're probably a big All Blacks fan. I'm sure you got a club team as well. That's rugby. But let us know who your favorite football team is. Again, I'm Andrew Rains with Apex Pro. Feel free to ask questions at any time as we're going through this. I'm going to share this onto my personal page. I'm going to say join us on Facebook Live. So if you want your friends to see this, we're going to talk about some cool stuff we've got coming up. Got a webinar coming up next week at Mid-Ohio that Anthony Magagnoli is going to join me for. A kind of a part two to the video that we posted a couple weeks ago. So we're going to do a little bit of a follow-up about Mid-Ohio and discuss some things in more depth. It's going to be a paid webinar. This is going to be the first of that kind that we've tried. So just bear with us, join in. I think it's going to be super high value. Anthony is awesome at Mid-Ohio. He knows every inch of the pavement. It's $49. I'll post a link in this video when I have a free second. Baker's supposed to be here with me, and he's not. He's at a meeting. He's working. He's doing something like that. Crazy. So we'll hold him accountable for that. Yeah, so that's next week, next Wednesday, a week from today at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm on Central, so 6 o'clock if you're on Central, 5 o'clock Mountain, 4 o'clock Pacific. Join us. You have to purchase through the website. You'll get a link to join the webinar the day before, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll go into more detail about racecraft, a little bit of wet driving in Mid-Ohio and how it's specific to the track, answer questions about our previous video, and then we're happy to do a more detailed Q&A about specific things that you guys want to talk about. So yeah, it's $49, super high value. We'll probably leave you with some stuff as well, some information from that. So again, if you can hear me, hit the wow face. Let me know. It looks like the mic's working. Asen says the sound is great. Awesome. And then comment and let me know who your favorite football team is. Matt McCarty says Aggies. Sam Bensley says the All Blacks. Marlon likes the Rams. The Rams. They're back in LA after a couple of years in St. Louis. So over here, I mentioned it earlier, the Auburn Formula SAE race car. I'll touch on that and how it's a crucial part of Apex's story. It's just really, really cool. A couple of other things product-wise. You might have seen an email this morning about OBD2 units. We only have about 10 of those left, less now. I'll have to talk to Luke, who's doing the shipping, but might only have a couple of those OBD2 units available. We're saving some to take with us to SCCA Time Trials Nationals, and then some for internal testing as well. But go ahead and purchase those if you want one of the first round. Would love your feedback on our survey. That was in that email as well. It's been really helpful. We've got a couple cars lined up to test on because we've learned what cars the unit struggles with. So we're going to be doing that soon, I believe actually later this week. And next week, we're going to be working on that. I don't know when the update will be published. I will let you know when I do know. You might have seen on the Facebook users group something about inclusion with Harry's lap timer. There will be more information on that soon. Haven't had time to prepare all that, but it's really exciting and just another way that we're trying to offer value to our customers. If you're also a Harry's lap timer customer, then it's the perfect storm. Just gives you one other way to use your product. Shoot me a Facebook message if you have any questions about that. Like I said, more info will come on that soon. At the end of this month, we're going up to NCM for SCCA Time Trials Nationals. It's going to be an awesome event. We're pumped to join SCCA. It was great last year. Hope that you can make it. If you're not already signed up, I don't know if they have any spots left. In that same vein, all of our demo slots are sold out. We've got 31 or 32 demos, more than I've ever embarked on in one weekend. But if you're going to be at the event, just come see us at the track and we can try to fit you in on the demo. Marlon says his OBD2 unit is working great. The feedback's been really positive. Honestly, a lot more positive than I thought that we were going to have a little more teething issues. It looks like when everyone's using it with the way that the instructions describe, the success rate's very high, save a couple of vehicles that we know the protocol struggles with. And we're working on that. Again, comment if you just are joining. Who's your favorite football team? Mine's Auburn University. War Eagle, go Tigers. That's what I'm all about. So a little bit of background, and this is the 2013 Auburn Formula SAE race car right here. It's pretty cool. This is a Formula student car in the rest of the country. Sam, if you're still watching, that's probably what they call it down in New Zealand. And it's designed entirely by students. Here's the steering wheel. I was intimately familiar with the steering wheel. This is what I used as the weapon of choice here when I drove this race car. So many of you know my business partner is Austin Gurley. He's a PhD in mechanical engineering, super smart guy. He invented Apex Pro technology. He also designed this race car. The chassis on this race car was a carryover from the year before with some slight changes. This is a carbon fiber monocoque. So just like a modern race car, like a modern open wheel race car. We had it in an autoclave. It was built on a seven-axis CNC router. Pretty cool stuff. So the mold for this chassis was actually built for the previous year's car. Formula SAE, you build a car every single year. It's an engineering competition. You're judged on the design of the car, and then you also compete in several different categories. You compete around a skid pad for overall road holding. You compete in an acceleration drag race event. Basically, you compete in an autocross event, kind of a sprint event, fastest time wins, and then an endurance event, which is two drivers, slightly different format, more enduring on the car, right? And this car did really well. I was the incumbent team captain in 2013. I got elected team captain for the 2014 season, and I was actually given my race car as well. This one's a lot more complete. Mine now resides with Zach Woolen, who is our powertrain chief engineer out in LA. He works for Honda Performance Development now, but this race car is back with us here at Apex Pro. So that's really exciting, and hopefully it will be running sometime. Austin, like I said, my business partner, developed the suspension on this car. So he designed the kinematics. He designed what we call the K points, which is, all right, you have a chassis. Where do you want your suspension mounting points to be, and how are they going to mount the tire? How's the tire going to be mounted relative to the chassis? So Austin was in charge of that, led the entire team on manufacturing this actual vehicle. Really, really, really cool. And like I said, this car did really well. So a couple things that are really cool. This is the steering wheel. It was a carbon fiber. It is a carbon fiber steering wheel. You can see a couple of different buttons. These buttons up here are for shifting. We did not have a paddle system. This aluminum tab right here used to have a clutch handle on it. We use the Yamaha R6 600cc sport bike motor that's integral to the chassis here. It's actually mounted in a steel space frame behind the vehicle right there in the very back. About a 49-50-51 weight distribution. Really, really solid car. 454 pounds, says right here on the nose, and about 90 horsepower. I think 86 was our rough wheel horsepower number that we used. I remember it being as high as 90 at one point. So you're talking about Bugatti Veyron, Chiron kind of power to weight. Ridiculously fast, probably the fastest car in a straight line that I've driven. Think of it like a shifter cart with suspension, bigger tires, or a sport bike with 4 tires. It's kind of what it feels like to drive. Pretty crazy. This was the car where I learned how to left foot brake. Clutch handles up here, so you just have two pedals in the pedal box. Really, really cool. So got a lot of time. What we would do when I was at Auburn, we had access to the airport, the Auburn airport, and we would go out in the middle of the day and set up a course at the Auburn airport and drive the car. So I could either go to class or I could go drive the race car. And the courses that these cars are built are kind of like a supersized autocross course. Air compressor's going off. Sorry for the extra ambient audio. We are here live from the warehouse. But I was able to drive the car like in the middle of the day. It'd be a Tuesday, about this time on a Wednesday, go out to the airport, set up a course out of cones, and we could just go drive. We had a lot of space to work with, kind of had to snake around some airplanes. But I got seat time. When we built this car, Austin reminded me a couple of weeks ago, our competition was in May. This car was running by mid-February, and we put hours and hours and hours of testing time on this car, which is ultimately why we were so successful with it. Most Formula SAE teams barely even drive the car before they go to competition. So it was a huge advantage for us to actually drive the car. What's really, really cool about this car, and kind of cool about the story behind it, is that this was the first car where we used sensors and accelerometers to start building a database for what is now Apex Pro. So this was AU 2013 is the name of the car. It was competing in 2013. The design concept for this car would have been started July of 2012. So this car was first designed with intent, and Austin designed it intending to run some stuff that a theory that he was testing about overall performance and a performance display. So the concept for Apex Pro was, hey, we have a Motec data logger. We can log everything on the car. We literally had damper pots. I think these were, I'll have to check. I think they were 3- or 4-way adjustable dampers, but we had damper pots on all 4 corners. We were measuring damper velocities. We had a damper dyno where we were revalving dampers. We were doing all this stuff, but Austin's whole theory was, yeah, but if the drivers don't drive the car, it doesn't matter. And he's right. He's got a great perspective, right? And that's something we can all relate with driving on the racetrack, right? So his whole idea with Apex Pro was to basically just show drivers in real time that they were too slow. And it's a very crude concept initially, right? We've developed it into something that I think you can gain positive feedback or negative feedback from, depending on the type of driver that you are, because driving is very mental. But that's where it all started. You guys feel free to ask questions. Also, if you're just now watching, let us know who your favorite football team is, because we want to talk a little bit about college football, right? Because that's a big deal this time of year. Mine is the Auburn Tigers, War Eagle. It's all right if you're an Alabama fan. I don't hate you or anything. Just not this time of year. We can't get along. We'll talk again in January, maybe February, depending on how things go. But yeah, this car was the test mule for the original Apex Pro. That iterated a lot. I didn't test one until a race car on a full-size racetrack until fall of 2014. Nope, fall of 2013. Sorry, fall of 2013 was the first time I drove on the racetrack with one. The following fall, 2014, was when we really started kind of moving the concept along and making changes to it. So the moral of the story is that we didn't really sell the existing product until 2017, about 2 years ago. So we went to PRI in 2016. But the moral of the story is that it takes a long time to make these things happen. This was something that Apex Pro was something that was kind of in the background of what I was doing at the time. When I started getting serious about developing it, I was racing professionally. So for my career trajectory in the driver's seat, if you want to call it that, right, it went from this race car right here. I was club racing at the same time. I won a club racing championship in 2014. And then in 2015, raced in World Challenge. It was a pretty big jump. But I spent so much time in this car, and this car right here. Because after we went to our first competition in May, we again got back, drove the car literally every day, prepping for our next competition, which was in mid-June in Nebraska, which we ended up finishing second overall in, which was Auburn's best finish at the time. It was a really big deal. But I drove the car every day. and I had to communicate with the engineers what I was feeling constantly. And at the time, it was myself and one other driver, Zach Woolen, who's a close friend and still in the motorsports community. And we both drove this car almost every single day. There's Baker. Baker's back. Welcome. We got it all set up. I got the Wi-Fi working. Baker's in.
What's going on, America?
So, guys, if you don't know, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be busy, all right? I'm going to be committed, quite literally, and Baker's going to be running the show. So if you need anything Apex Pro-wise, you will be communicating with the one and the only Mr. Baker Heppenstall. We're doing a little driving right here. I need to start using this steering wheel for demonstrations and things like that. Yeah, so something interesting, we want to talk like technical bits on the car. These are shift buttons, which I hated at the time and still do, because you're in the steering wheel, you're locked in with your thumbs like this, and you got to pull your thumb out, lose grip on the wheel to shift. So that's why paddles work really well, because you don't have to relieve that tension on the steering wheel. Also, we didn't have those nice ergonomic hand grips that you see on like an Indy car or a modern open wheel car. It had kind of these rough edges of the wheel. So in hindsight, that would have been a huge addition to make this car a lot easier to drive fast. When we're talking open wheel cars, ergonomics are extremely important, right? Because the driver is an integral part. The driver is basically part of the chassis in an open wheel car. They really, I mean, you really are in any car, but an open wheel car more so. This car, I'm 175 pounds, 180 pounds. This car is 454 pounds. So percentage-wise, I'm almost half the weight of the car. So the ergonomics were a really big deal. Made some announcements earlier. Just want to reiterate, next week we've got our Mid-Ohio webinar. Baker, if you're not busy, I know you look pretty busy. Can you post the link on this video to the Mid-Ohio webinar? Is that a possibility? Baker's going to hook us up with that. So you guys can sign up right now if you're free next Wednesday. It's only $49. We're going to have Anthony Magnoli with us for that. We're going to talk about every inch of Mid-Ohio if we need to. More importantly, watch the video we made a couple weeks ago. It's on our YouTube page. This is kind of the follow-up to that. It's going to be a paid webinar because we both have other things we need to be doing with our time, and this is our business, and we want to offer you the most value as possible. And hopefully, I think you'll feel that that's a fair asking price for it. Guys, ask questions away if you'd like to about anything that you see. Brian, welcome. We'll just be talking a couple more minutes here. We've got, again, the 2013 Auburn Formula SAE car here, carbon fiber steering wheel, pretty cool stuff, and we're live from the warehouse. We haven't really shown this part of the office before. This is our shipping and receiving area over here. It opens up a little bit more that you can see off camera. Back there where the barn doors are, that is the prototyping lab. That's where we have a CNC, a lathe, and some other stuff, so 3D printer, other things, so that we can develop stuff, right? Build different products. There's a couple of other businesses that operate out of this space as well. It's actually a pretty big space in here. We're really fortunate to have it. Again, this car is the origin story of Apex Pro. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, first car that we actually put sensors on to develop what is now the Apex Pro technology. And to kind of wrap up that whole story, what ended up happening is Austin's a couple years older than me. He left the team to go into grad school. So Austin's in grad school. I'm just trying to get a lowly undergrad degree, right? And I'm in the business school. And we continue to communicate. I have a race car, and he reaches out to me to continue testing what he started on this car in my race cars. And so we kind of developed that relationship. We went through iterations of the product, and we started to get pretty serious about it. By the time I left Auburn, I knew that Apex Pro was something that was a possibility, mainly because I'd spent a lot of time interacting with other data acquisition systems. At the time, I was running a system in my World Challenge car and had interacted with that company. And I knew kind of what the limitations were in the market. I knew what customers were facing, what people were having to deal with. And so we set out to build a system that was simpler to use and offered more value to the customer for less money, but ultimately offered a better experience. And we want to be here to support that. And I think we've been able to really support that thesis. So that's what we're doing at Apex Pro. I mentioned some stuff. If you guys have a chance, go back and rewatch the beginning of this video for some announcements. We'll post the link to our Mid-Ohio webinar next week, which I highly recommend you would join. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be a pretty simple format, about 45 minutes of a presentation. that we will be giving, and then it'll be a Q&A session after that. We're going to kind of assume that you watched the video. When I send out an email about it, I'll include a link to that video. We're going to assume that you've watched this initial video that we published, and we're going to kind of use that information. We're going to kind of go in more depth with the information from that video. So again, thanks for joining us. If you want to get this content, this information, what we're doing in front of your friends, please share this video, share it to any groups that you're a part of that are interested in this. If you have any questions about the Auburn Formula SAE car, comment about it. Happy to do more content about it. It's super cool. Hopefully one day it'll be a driving car again. All right, I'll let you guys go. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I know this was a funky time. Hopefully this was a nice break from whatever you're doing at work. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. Next week we might have a special guest, so stay tuned. We'll see. All right, have a good afternoon.